Hello Steemits, hello YouTube. CryptoG here, just coming at you with another Blender video tutorial as part of the Grow Together rather video series where I sort of tackle on new things like, for instance, Blender, and just see if I can learn a 3D program, learn some 3D modeling, and hopefully at the same time imparts that knowledge to you whilst inspiring you to go off and, try your own challenges. Okay, so the last point we remember, I'll link this tutorial if you haven't seen it already. We created a coffee cup, and I'm just going to come into how we finished it. We went to object mode and we went to solid, and then we clicked smooth shading. And so now, let's carry on from here. So after we do that, we want to come over to the spanner, or wrench as the Americans call it, the wrench tab, and we want to say add modifier, and we want to go down to subdivision surface. Okay, and you've got view and render. So I'm going to put both of these to 3. Now obviously the higher you have these numbers, the better and smoother your object will be. However, it won't, it'll take a long time for your computer, depending on, your graphics cards and what have you. We've all got different machines, but, just be aware that this is going to tax your computer the higher you put this up. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to go onto the materials tab. And make sure that we're on cycles render. If it looks different, then you could be on a different render. I'm just going to go back to cycles render here. Okay, so we're on our cup, and we're going to add a new surface. Now we're going to go here, and we're going to press where it says diffuse BSDF, and we're going to go mix shades, which is there, mix shader rather. Okay, now that's going to allow us to add a couple of shades. So the first one we're going to add will be a diffuse shade, BSDF, and we're going to change the color there. Click on color, and we're going to just change that down to light gray. Okay, that's about right, because we're going to give it a sort of ceramic look. Then the second one, we're going to come here, we're going to go shader, and we're going to go to glossy. Let's hit glossy. Okay, so we're happy with that. Now, of course, you'll realize, especially if you're used to photo editing software, you'll realize that nothing seems to be changing while I'm doing that, and that's because with 3D software you're gonna have to render out first. Okay, I'm just sort of chuckling to myself at the funny way I've done this handle. It should be lower, but it's just a tutorial, so I'll probably use a different one for the actual image. Okay, so we've chosen that. Now what we're going to do, we're going to click 1 to go to normal view. And if you see that it's at a slight angle here, you see I can see the bottom, just hit 5 to get off perspective view. Now I'm going to zoom out to look for the camera. There it is up there. And I'm going to click on the right of it here to create an origin point, somewhere where we can bring stuff in. And I'm going to bring up my add menu by going Shift A, just letting go of that. Staying on mesh, coming over and saying plane. Then I'm going to hit R on my keyboard, which stands for rotate, and I could move my mouse up and down, but I'm not. I'm just going to type in 45, 45 and hit return. Now I want it bigger, so I'm going to press S, and then I'm just going to simply hit 5 on my keyboard, and I'm going to hit enter again, or return. Okay, now I'm making sure that I'm still on this. I'm actually going to change the name of this plane that I've just created, and I'm going to turn that, I'm going to make that key light. Okay, Okay, then I'm going to click off, and we've got that. Now we're still on the materials tab, so I'm going to click new. I'm going to go where diffuse BSDF is, and I'm going to go to emission, which will turn it into a light. Now I'm going to turn the strength. We can see the preview here actually. There we go, and you see that's the kind of shadows it'll cast, and that's the kind of intensity of the light. So I could change it because I want it. Oops, excuse me. I could change it by just simply clicking on the values here, but that changes it in quite small increments of 0.1. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to type 8, and I'm going to hit return. Okie dokie. Right, and I'm not going to, I can change a lot of things about this light, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to keep this simple. Okay, so now once we've done that, there's something I forgot, because we need a table for our cup to sit on. So I'm going to just hit A to undo that, not undo, deselect, and I'm just clicking, right click here, just underneath my cup. I'm going to bring in my add menu by going Shift and A. I'm going to say mesh plane. That's right. And then I'm going to scale this by pressing S, and I'm going to say 2.5 is where I want it. And I'm going to hit return. I'm happy with that. And I'm just going to have a quick look to make sure we're on top. Yep, the cup isn't poking through. And when I'm on this view, number 1 view, I can see it sitting on top. Okay. Let's zoom in just to make sure it's not quite on top, is it? So I'm going to move the table just up slightly. There we go. Making sure I haven't popped through the bottom. There we go. So now we're sitting on the table, and I'm happy with that. Right, I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to go back to... Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to change the color of the table. So we are going to say... new material. We're going to keep it on diffuse this time, and we're just going to change the color to a kind of, I quite like this orangey color. It's kind of light orangey. I like that. Change it to what you like, of course. Okie dokie. So now we have a table with a color. Obviously we've got our cup from the previous tutorial, but we've added subdivision textures. We've smoothed it out as well, and of course, last but not least, we've added a whopping great panel light here. So as I was sort of saying, and if you're new, this is very much these, I think these tutorials are aimed at people who've just started using this program. So just to explain something that's probably quite a simple concept if you do know this program, but if you don't, when we scroll around here like this using our zoom in and out wheel and pressing down the wheel and moving and pressing down the wheel and shift and panning across, like that, we're not actually changing the position, the relative positions of these objects. We're just panning around. If we want to actually see what the camera sees, we're going to hit 0 on our number pad, and that's going to take us into the camera. Now, if we come down here to the bottom to the view menu and just come up with properties, and then just simply come here in the middle, and we're going to lock camera to view. Now when I move around, I'm actually moving the camera, and I can show you that just by simply coming back to and pointing to the light, and you saw we were over there with the camera, we're now over here. So now all of the movements, shift, hitting the scroll wheel and dragging, just using the scroll wheel on its own and moving around, zooming in and out, this is all what the camera is going to do, and this is actually going to be our final image, what the camera sees. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go about, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, I meant to come in a bit and tilt up and come down. Okay, right, that's good enough. So we've done everything. Now we're going to come up to our camera here, hit camera, and we've got our render. Now your render, if we go to sampling, we'll see it's on 128. And we don't want that, that's a bit much, because all we want to do is do a quick preview to see what the lighting's looking like. So I'm going to type in 20, hit return, and I'm simply going to come up here and hit render. And you'll see here in 20 just simply means it'll do 20 samples of each pixel. And you can see the size of the sample size there. So each bunch of pixels within those areas, it's sampling 20 times and giving us a render. And there we go, that's looking quite nice. And obviously it's very grainy because we've hit a very low sample rate. And if you were happy with that, you would simply come back to the camera and just render, oops, sorry, excuse me, come back, change the properties. Let's say you wanted 200. I'm just going to let this finish actually before I do this. I'll type in 200. Okie dokie. Right, there we go. So I'll type in 200 and then hit render here. And we can see already it's going a lot slower than it was just now. And in fact, if we look up here, it's saying that there's a remaining time of 6 hours, 53 minutes, you know, roughly. Sort of, there we go, look, it's gone down to 6 hours and it's going down. And already you can just see, just from having a look, there's a lot less graininess and it's beginning to look nice. Another way we can make the sampling look nice is we look at the clamping. Now the clamping, what that'll do is that occasionally what we see is we see little white artifacts and white pixels on our image. That there, I understand they're called fireflies. So clamping, if we up the sort of amount of clamping, both direct and indirect, I'm assuming, so don't quote me on this, but I'm assuming direct is more for our main objects. Indirect is for any kind of background that we've just left nondescript. So what I mean by that is obviously on the table here, this is an object, our cup is an object. However, the grey space that it's creating is just simply because I didn't put anything there, so it just creates a grey space. And funnily enough, I'm actually going to sort of leave that because I think it's going to end up a lot quicker going. Okie dokie, welcome back, Steamians. And as we can see here, this is 128 sample render. Still, it's not absolutely top quality, but again, when you're just sort of previewing and you're trying to check things like light and what have you, it's a very useful thing to have. So I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of more things and then we'll wrap this up. So if I wasn't happy with this, obviously I would sort of just hit escape. I would unlock the camera view, click in on the image and click a number on my pad, in this instance 1. So I might say, oh, actually what I want to do is add another kind of light source there, because from there we had quite a lot of shadow. Obviously, if I look at my light, I can see where the shadow would be. So the shadow is going to be a lot in this region. So I'm going to create a light source kind of over there. And I'm going to say Shift A, mesh plane, R, I'm going to just use my mouse this time. I'm going to click when I'm ready, come down here and move it back a bit, move it back, come onto my materials tab, make sure that that's the only thing I'm selecting. It is. Say new material, click on where it says diffuse, go down to emissions. This is going to be a fill light, so I'm going to make this 2, hit return, where am I? I'm going to make sure that, there we go, plane 001. I know it's the one because it's got this glow around it. I'm going to call this fill light. I should have called the other plane table to make sure that I don't get confused. And now we can sort of have a look at the preview, and you can see the difference between, actually no, it's not on that one, that's not the difference I wanted to show you, between that one and this one here. And I'm not sure if you can pick that up on the screen, but there is a difference. So you can see the intensity difference between this and this. Okie dokie. So there we go. I'd say to myself, I'm happy with that. I'd sort of hit 0 to make sure that I can't, you know, I can't see the light. And then hit render again. So we'd come up to the camera. Oh no, sorry. We need to lock our view. So we say view, properties, lock view, which my menu's disappeared at the moment. That's very strange. Very strange. Let's go over to camera. That's probably why. There we go. Yeah, that's why, I think. View, properties. There we go. That's why. Lock camera to view. Just kind of make sure that I'm out, pan around if I wanted to, and then hit render. So let me just make sure my sampling is correct. Where are we? Sampling. Oh, 200 is the render I put. I'm not going to do that because I just want to show you quickly. Let's make that 20. Scroll back up and hit render. Okay, so then the last thing I want to show you is how to save, because it can be a bit confusing finding out how to actually get this image out of Blender into a folder, and you know, so that you can look at it and, you know, mess about with it. And we can see that's a lot lower quality render there. You know, but there you go. You get the idea, and you see that I've changed the lighting now, and I've given it a sort of different glow on the lighting. Okay, so there you can see that my image here, we've rendered that much lower after the adding of the light, but you know, that doesn't matter. We've got the kind of lighting, the extra lighting we can see there. Now, saving can be a real bit of a mystery if you're not kind of aware of what you should do. So it can be confusing. So for instance, here we've got the output settings. So we've got the PNG, you know, we've got the different file type that we can have, and we've also got where the renders are going to save. However, if you want to actually save the image, because that's just saving renders, right? That's just saving kind of mathematical cache files. We go image, and we can see here, we say save as image. Okay, so once you save as image, then you can, you know, put it to where you want, call it what you want. Here we got untitled PNG, call it whatever you want, put it where you want. You see I've just got mine in my Steam tutorials video, and then we click here and say save as image. Now I'm not going to do that because obviously it's a very low res image, but that's basically it. So just to quickly recap, we've gone over, I just pressed escape there to get out. We've gone over how to make textures, smooth over the cup. We used smooth. We added a modifier. We did a mix shade whereby we gave it a glossy and a kind of ceramic look. Then we added two planes. We added this plane first, made it an emission surface, which turns it into a light, and then we created that. That light isn't that light isn't very good. Obviously, I would move that somewhere where it was actually affecting our image a bit better. But that's basically it. So off you go, play around with these parameters. Don't be scared to play around with them. I've just shown you the very basics, but as you'll see, as you kind of start clicking around, you know, all of these render parameters especially are all designed to give you a better image. However, you've got to keep an eye on how long everything will take. Okay, so that's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this, and yeah, if you want to know anything, ask the comments below. The next tutorial I come out with, I'm not sure what it's going to be, but we're going to do some more great objects, some lighting and various effects, and yeah, I shall see you then. Bye bye, Steemit.